I still haven't seen this interview, by the way. Nothing has compelled me to watch it. And I think that's a big problem for Colby Covington moving forward in his career. I don't think people care anymore. 4 days ago, 28k views. 4 days, 28,000 views. Colby Covington's interviews on Submission Radio used to get hundreds of thousands of views. Forget it if he hadn't fought in 6 months or he'd been out for a year. Whenever he would do an interview, it would get so much traction. But I've got a little zoom in for you here so you can actually see the view count. 4 days ago, 28k views. This interview with Colby Covington on Submission Radio was bad for Submission Radio's algorithm. Absolutely crazy. Colby Covington, he's lost the fan base. I think that's probably what happened here. I think a lot of the Covington fans found Strickland. They found Manel Cap. No, I don't know. They found Strickland. They found other fighters that they could get behind, that they believed in more. That Strickland was the guy who fought anyone, anywhere. You know, he'd step up on short notice. He would take on Israel Adesanya on short notice and take it to him. And he had a good scrap with Dricus du Plessis. And I think people found what they considered the non-gimmicky version of Colby Covington in Sean Strickland. And even Covington came out and said he shouldn't be saying this about women in the kitchen. Like, he needs to watch the words that come out. Covington ended up sounding a little bit sour when he was going after Sean Strickland. And I kind of saw this move happening where people would massively bail on the Colby Covington fan base. They would. There's none left. 28k in 4 days. And let me tell you, I would show all the comments. None of them are nice. None of them are like, we're still believing in you, Colby. None of them are nice. The comments are, what an embarrassment, watching Trump walk out on him as he's trying to pander to Trump in his post-fight speech and all of that. And it's purely because his performance against Leon Edwards was embarrassing. You know, he came out and said he had a broken foot. Maybe he did. The performance was the performance, and people's opinions of the performance didn't take into consideration a broken foot, and that's the damage that's been done. No one cares anymore. Crazy. Do I still think Colby Covington can be involved in some big fights? I do, and that's what we're going to go through in today's video. I've got these like pathways for Colby Covington to take if he wants to make a return to the top of the division, and how he should navigate his career. He takes on this opponent, then he takes on another opponent, and then he's back into title contention. But I just think it's absolutely crazy. 28k views in 4 days. This is Colby Covington we're talking about here. He's mentioning Ian Gary this, and he's bringing up all of the stuff that you want to hear from him, and yet people still aren't watching. People have forgotten about Colby Covington. They really have. And I think to come back, forget broken foot this, broken foot that. Fair enough, he's going to have to recover from it. He had some fractures in his foot. He's going to have to recover. Activity is the biggest key here for Colby Covington to try and save his career. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some steps on how Covington can return. Before I get into step 1, which I think is the danger step. Is it the danger step? I'll find out as I go through it. I can't remember what order I did them in. But I think first of all, Covington needs to stop the gimmicky stuff. And I think Covington needs to come to his next press conference deep-voiced, gravelly talking, savage sounding, no pointing and laughing and doing all of the silly gimmicky stuff that he does with a weird voice that he puts on. He needs to come back gravelly, deep voiced. I'm here to prove what I'm really about. I was ashamed by my Leon Edwards performance. He's not going to do that because I've seen headlines. I didn't lose that Edwards fight. You know, they robbed me. I know he went on Fox News and said that he got robbed because he supports Trump and all of this bollocks, you know what I mean, trying to pander to the little fan base that he might have had left. But still, even Sean Strickland's posing with Trump in pictures, doing face-offs with him. Like, Covington's lost a lot of his fan base, but I think he needs to come back with a more serious tone. You know what I mean? And that's where he's going to save his career, because let me tell you, if you go into a press conference with Ian Gary and you're not the one that comes out likable, it might well and truly be over for Colby Covington. Let's start with this stage. I don't know what stage this one is, but I'll know what one it is by the time I actually reveal the first opponent that Covington should fight when he comes back. So these are different routes that I've set out for Colby Covington. You may not be able to tell, but I'm switching between slides here. 3 of them. for him to make his return. Oh, this is the this is the savage route. If Covington wants to come back and earn full respect from all MMA fans, Covington signs up to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov as soon as possible. As soon as possible. June International Fight Week is probably going to be the move for him. I could see him being on the main card of that. If Colby Covington wants to win back, where people aren't going to be able to talk trash. People can say, Shavkat Bible whatever he wants. Shavkat's going to destroy Covington. He's going to whoop him. Wow, dude, Covington, this is the end of Covington's career. But if he wants that one comment or two with a few thousand likes to say, you know what, you got to respect Covington for taking this fight when he didn't need to, then this is how he does it. He comes back and he says, give me Shavkat Rakhmonov in June. And this might put him right back in title contention. It shouldn't. But we know what the UFC's like with Covington. He's like the Cyril Gane of welterweight, the Gaethje of heavyweight, where they don't really need to put in win streaks. Gaethje has done now, but some guys just need one win and they're back in the mix, you know? But Covington should be looking to fight Shavkat if he wants to go the savage route, where fans that hate him are still going to have to say, 100% you got to respect Covington for taking this dangerous fight. So both of them are coming off a similar injury with their feet. June International Fight Week, main card, Colby Covington versus Shavkat Rakhmonov on the feature fight, opening up the main card, one of those positions. That's still a huge fight that he can make. If he wins that one, then the next route that he wants to go to after that, if he doesn't earn a title shot, which I don't think he will, is not like a Bilal Muhammad coming off a loss or a Leon Edwards coming off a loss. It can't be someone coming off a loss. He has to double up on win streak opponents. And that win streak opponent would be a JDM that gets past Gilbert Burns, a Gilbert Burns that gets past JDM in Brazil, maybe. That could be a good storyline as well. I just think JDM's going to beat Burns. Burns is allergic to jabs. JDM's got one of the nastiest ones in the business. But then again, JDM pulls guillotine. But who knows? Either way, JDM is one of those opponents. Ian Gary is also a potential one of those opponents. Now, I think Jeff Neal beats Ian Gary. But if Ian Gary gets past Jeff Neal, I know he's going to call out Colby Covington. So if Covington's coming off a win over Shavkat, this is all very, very wishful thinking for Covington. But this would be the ultimate respect gainer. You can't disrespect him anymore after this. And that's what the whole MMA community is going to be doing. If he goes out there, takes out Shavkat, and starts looking at, who wins in Burns JDM or who wins in Jeff Neal versus Ian Gary, and wants the winner of one of those matchups, that would be an epic move for Colby Covington. And that would be the savage road back to the UFC title for him. We move on to another option. I think this is the easy road. And a road that I would, if I was his manager, encourage him to take. Stephen Thompson. Still dangerous. And honestly, at this point, I might have to pick Thompson to win against Covington. I haven't seen Covington able to implement wrestling in God knows how long now. I know Wonderboy doesn't have the same level of wrestling, but still. It's at the point where I can't trust Covington to win this matchup that I would have picked him to steamroll 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Colby Covington, Stephen Thompson, this is the easy road back. If I'm his manager and I want to take care of Covington's money and make sure he can get high likelihood wins in good positions on cards, I would say, hey Covington, how's your foot feeling? It's been 2 months since your fight in December. Healed up good? There's a main event that they need in Atlantic City, 30th of March, or whatever the date is. I think it's the 30th of March. Atlantic City, New Jersey. It doesn't have a main event. Dude, step in and fight Wonderboy on that card if Wonderboy can show up as well. Just get back in there as soon as possible. Don't wait this one out till June. They might end up doing this, which also would be smart. But I think Covington needs to get ahead. He needs to be in a position where he can't be called a duck by some of these guys like JDM or Ian Gary, who might be coming off a win next weekend, because he's already got a matchup signed. So he needs to get ahead of them by doing that. Wonderboy is one of the matchups that he can go for. If he wins that one, then it's turning around to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov. Or Ian Gary. Ian Gary is also an option here as well. Probably Ian Gary, right? It arguably should be Ian Gary, so I'm actually going to copy his face and put it on this option instead. This is the easy pathway, right? So if he wants the easy pathway, It's Wonderboy and then Ian Gary. I don't think Shavkat's easier of a matchup than Ian Gary is for Covington. I imagine Rachmanov has better takedown defense than Ian Gary, but this is the easy one. Money fights, big names, winnable matchups. Of course, Gary might end up beating him, but you know, he could work his grappling and we find out, oh, hang on a second, Ian Gary can't defensively wrestle because he hasn't really fought anyone that can shoot good takedowns on him yet. But Covington, Wonderboy, and then look for the Ian Gary fight, international fight week in June. Activity here is what he needs to do.